Hey everybody, this is the You're Doing Great Mom podcast. I'm Dr. Marianne Shiozawa, and this is episode 24.
I think kids are great and hilarious and can offer like poignant remarks that you wouldn't hear anywhere else, and I love all of that. But I love it in the same way that I like people in general. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like automatically like kids more than I like people in general. And as much as I like people in general, I like to, choose which people I'm going to be around. And you know what I mean? And so, whereas there's other people who see kids and they react like you do when you see a puppy at the park and you're like, oh my God, like, look at her, look at that little baby, or your toddler, she just started to walk, oh my God.
Andrea, aka Drea Clark, is my guest today. Drea is my sister's best friend from high school. We've known her for so long that she's practically part of our family. Well, she basically inserted herself into our family, and I've always accepted her as like another little sister. So when I asked her to be on my podcast for this series of conversations with women who aren't mothers, and she said yes, I was over the moon. I was so excited. I couldn't wait. Drea lives in LA and works in film. She explained what she does on the episode, but I still don't exactly know what she does. I know that she's fiercely independent, she's super hilarious, fun, hyper intelligent, very opinionated about a lot of things, and I love her to death. She's fabulous. We last saw one another at my brother's wedding a year and a half ago in Greece in summer of 2016. We hung out for a solid week, catching up, reminiscing, and having a blast because that's what you do at weddings, especially with Drea. In fact, everyone needs to just invite Drea at their wedding. It would definitely amp things up. Being with Drea is like one awesome adventure park. You can talk to her about anything, and she'll always add incredible insight, humor, fun, and definitely debate. What's so awesome about Drea is that in conversation, she always has such brilliant timing, too. She just knows how to keep people engaged just from her sharp wit, her incredible timing, and her intelligent comments. I wish I had more time with her for this podcast, as well as in person. Enjoy listening. Drea, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Yay, thank you for having me, Mare.
Yay. So this is such a great idea. And when you said that you would talk to me for the podcast, I just was like jumping. I mean, literally, I was jumping with joy.
Listen, I talk to like strangers all the time. Why wouldn't I talk to you?
No, I know.
I love to just like share my business.
Oh yeah. So okay. So Drea, just to get into context. So the I've been doing a series. I've been talking to, I don't know if you know, but I've been talking to a lot of women who are not mothers for whatever reason, and I find that it's a really interesting conversation. Yeah. And that's the reason why I was very excited to talk to you, because you're not a mother.
I am not. Well, I have cats.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Right. Okay. So you're like kind of a mother. Yeah.
Real creepy about my connection with my cats. So no, I'm not a mother. I'm not planning to be. I don't really have any interest in being a mother of children.
Yeah.
I will have more cats as I age, I'm sure. Who knows? Someday I'll get a couple dogs.
Aw.
Keep the doors open.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great. I love cats and dogs, and I think that's. I hear that people get connected with their with rabbits and stuff, or some kind of rodent, but that's not my. I don't think that I
feel like you can connect with almost anything.
Yeah. And, that's true.
Yeah. It's funny you phrased it that way too, because I mean, not to just like dive right in, but as you know, so we know each other because your sister is my best friend forever.
Yeah.
And which means, and I've told you this before, so Mika and I have been best friends since like junior high, which means I have like worshipped and admired you since my formative puberty years. You were like her stylish older sister who was so cool and so pretty and like was still like cool with us. You were never the bitchy older sister. You were very like, you would come, I feel like you would talk makeup with us, or maybe that's just what I would like ask you about. But so yeah, so I've known you for so long, and as you know, I've been involved with kids like professionally for a long time as well. Like I was a camp counselor for 7 years. I nannied all through college. I was with the same family. And so I had the same, I started with a 3 and a 5-year-old, and then we had a baby my senior year. And I'm like, and it was a big deal too, because the little boy was born with a congenital heart defect. And
Oh,
so I have
your mom had a when you were in high
no,
school? Oh.
the family that I nannied
Oh, right.
for.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying like I have all these intense memories of like staying up with, because I had him for night. He couldn't be alone ever really. He couldn't sleep like for the first year. He had to have someone near him. And so there were a couple nights a week just to help with his parents where like I stayed overnight and slept with this like I have these great child memories. Like I love kids. I love your kids. I think they're fun. I had such a great time working at a summer camp. I taught Sunday school. I babysat all through, like that was totally part of my identity. But I feel like I knew even kind of in college that it wasn't necessarily a fit for me or something I was super dreaming about. I still was thinking about kids, but it was more of thinking about kids because like that's what you did, you know, like that's just sort of what everybody in my world did anyway. You got married and you got a house and you had some kids. And
Yeah.
like many of my best friends did that, and I am very happy with where they ended up. But once it was nice. You know, I've been in Los Angeles for like almost 20 years at this point, and
Wow.
the majority of my friends don't have kids here. So once I came to a different world and sort of outside of the Midwest, and it's like, oh, well, the norm isn't necessarily the norm. Like the norm is kind of what you make it. And so it really expanded what I was able to think of as envisioning my future. You know,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally. That was actually really nice of what you said, what you said about not being the bitchy older sister. I never even like,
You
um,
never hear.
I feel like I wasn't really around anyway, but, what you mentioned, it's what you in your world is what people do, or at least what women do. And, you, well, other background stuff is that my I was raised in the Northeast, and then uh when in 1990, that's when my family moved to White Bear Lake, which is where that's where you lived there for all your life, right?
No, I moved there in 6th grade, just
Oh,
a couple
right.
years. Yeah,
Okay, but I mean
but
like that.
I moved from St. Paul, so I wasn't like far.
Okay. But that like that from coming from the Northeast in the suburbs of New York City to, well, the suburbs of Minneapolis, and it's actually quite different in terms of American culture. I think the Midwest is a lot different than the Northeast, and I definitely sensed that as soon as I came to visit. And so it's really interesting because I get the feeling, I get the sense, because from Mika and June, so my younger siblings, they had these friends where they kind of got married pretty early on and had, they started a family pretty early on. So yeah, so it's interesting, culturally, it's just kind of what people just do or did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also my view as a woman, it's like, I think at some point in any girl's life, girl or woman at whatever point, whether she's, because there's some women I talk to who they knew at age 5 that they wanted children. Do you know what I mean? And it never wavered. And then
Right.
there's some women that know, also early on that they don't want children, which I hear I understand that that's actually more rare. Most women, if they don't want children and they know they don't want children, that's kind of later. But even that is just kind of rare, and they don't have children just for other circumstances or other reasons. But in any case, the conversation or the thought about motherhood is always going to be in a woman's mind.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that because, again, I think it's presumed in most instances because
Mm-hmm.
the majority of people, actually, that's not true. I can't remember what it is, but as of the last couple of years, the majority of women do not have children anymore. I think it's like 56. Oh, I'll maybe look it up, but it was like 53 or 56% of women in sort of childbirthing age are no longer having kids. Like
In America?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a
Wow.
I know it's been a thing that, like, for the baby boomers are concerned because the national birth rate has gone down enough that, like, they're genuinely, well, I mean, I won't go into a side as of yesterday how our entire lives are screwed because of this freaking tax cut anyway, but they, how that relates to kids is the concern is that because there are lower rates of children being born, there won't be when all of us are at like social security age, the people who will be contributing to the workforce that will be funding those, so it's supposed to sort of all pay off. There's less and less of them. So like currently, because of the rates of kids being born or not born, as it were, it's like literally going to affect our economy within this generation.
Huh,
Um,
that's very interesting. I did
yeah,
not, yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. Because you're very you keep up with like a lot of American politics and or worldwide
yeah,
politics. I don't, only because well, I was never very political in the first place, and then now that I live in the UK or I moved
yeah,
from the States, but that's actually, wow, that'll be interesting how that turns out. I mean, it kind of
yeah.
sucks. It kind of sucks for us.
Well, and it does suck, but it's also because of, it's like anything. If you set up a structure with the assumption that it will always maintain those numbers, you are at risk for screwing yourself because numbers never maintain. Things always change,
Mm,
and and lifestyles. Birth control is a lot of it. It's not just people like me who are making conscious choices to not have families, but the number of children can be, that's exactly what birth control means, is sort of family planning and deciding how many kids you want. Like, I do have a lot of great friends in Los Angeles that have kids, and of those ones that have kids, I'm trying. I think I know like three that have more than one kid. Like most of the ones that have kids are like, I'll do one. Whereas, if you think of like my dad has four siblings, like there used to be big sprawling families, and like
yeah.
all of those again part of the workforce. So yeah, it's a number of things, but it's also the workforce has changed, who's doing what. And for me, like a lot of it, like I said, when I was in college and first kind of entertained the idea, I remember having this conversation with my roommates, uh, and my roommates, keep in mind, knew me as the person who like nannied. Like I was very close with the family that I took care of, and I'd been with them for years, and then I left for the summer to go work at a summer camp. And I remember floating that idea by them once of like, I'm not really sure if I want kids. I don't know if I can do that and have the life I want to have, the career I want to have, and therefore it's not a priority. And I remember my roommates being like, you're crazy and you're just tired right now. Like,
Mm.
of course you want kids. You love kids. And I'm like, those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Like,
No,
you
yeah.
can love children and also love giving them back. Like, I'm an awesome auntie type, you know.
Oh
I'm a
yeah, for
great
sure.
godmother.
Listen,
Um,
I'm still holding you to that, to what you said, that you're gonna let Sophia
I know.
intern when she turns
I
like
can't
14 or
I
15.
can't wait till she's old enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you make some great kids.
I totally
If
trust
you
you. Like I'll put her on a, well, no, I'll come with her because I'll have to come to
okay,
visit
good.
you. And I'll drop her off. I'll spend a few days and then I'll drop her off and I'll be like, see ya. And
Yeah.
I have full 100% trust in you, you know, just like totally taking her under your wing just for the summer.
Yeah. And
She
that
can't
would be
wait.
fun for me. Yeah, see, those things sound great. But that's part of it. I'm like, oh yeah, like a teenager, or I love holding a baby. But I've also done my years of, I'm not crazy about being woken up by a baby. And I've also, you know, in looking at being able to choose, um I like to think I lead a very intentional life. And that isn't that it's not open to surprises or spontaneity, but I've very deliberately chosen, and I've been very lucky. I realize that when I say that, like, not everyone gets to choose as much because there's inherent struggle with being able just to afford doing things like that. Like, I get that, but like,
Hmm.
I love living by myself. I love setting my own hours. I love being able to keep everything clean and neat and how I want it. I don't, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's intention to those things, and I really enjoy that. And and that is part of what changes when you have kids. There's, your priorities change, or they should. Like, if you are going to be a parent, I assume you want to be a great parent. Like, my
Yeah.
friends who are parents are awesome and they take it very seriously. Like, the I have such respect for that, and I'm grateful that they're raising a generation of not assholes. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause those non-assholes will be populating my world soon enough. So, like, that's awesome. But I'm like, oh, I'm super not interested in doing that. It doesn't sound fun to me at all. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so much just, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, that's really interesting because I think I think that's so cool the way you said living an intentional life, and whatever intention you have, whether you choose to have children or not, you know, like I also live with an intentional life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I knew early on that that life and that intention involved being a mother. And you know, I think I'm not raising assholes.
You are not. You have
um
completely non-assholes in your family.
it's oh my god, it's just really funny, you know. I mean, like, it's so that, as a little sidebar, I don't know, I hear stories about kids in the playground just doing stupid things, and then the parent will get called in to the school because their kid was in some kind of whatever situation with another kid.
Right.
And you know, I mean, I have a friend who, her child gets bullied or was getting bullied. And because, you know, I mean, it's the classic, he has glasses, he's really intelligent, he reads, like, he read like the whole freaking Harry Potter and um Lord of the Rings, like the whole series by the age of like 6, you know. I mean, like, super intelligent, super sweet boy, not as physically coordinated, that sort of thing. And he just was, I don't know, it was kind of like this bullseye in his back, and kids would just pick on him. And it was just, and he happens to be really good friends with my son. And something happened, you know, with some other kid, and the mother of that child, uh, you know, had heard about it, and she went up to the other kid's mother, so my, you know, my friend, giving her a major problem of the way that he was treated, meaning, like, you know, I mean, just she was defending her son, she was defending the son that was,
Bully?
yeah, the one that was, considered as the bully, defending her son, like just defending how, yeah, and that happens really often, and it's like, okay, so these mothers, it's like, I mean, I'm having this conversation with my friend, and we're both like, what? I don't. We were like, stunned and just completely baffled at the. How are you not seeing this? How are you not raising your child with these? How are you not taking responsibility for the actions of your child who are clearly not seeing that this kind of behavior, just doesn't work in life? I mean,
well, of course she's not. Like, I say that because think of how hard it is for grown-ups to take responsibility for themselves. So, like, some woman taking responsibility for the fact that her kid's been an asshole, I totally see her avoiding that because it means admitting that she's dropped the ball in some way. Like, so many people, including myself, like, your natural gut reaction is defensiveness.
yeah,
And defensiveness immediately means the other person has to be wrong. And so and how many times and I do this all the time, that I'm in a defensive position and I know 1/16 into whatever I'm saying that I'm in the wrong, but I'm still so worked up about it. And then I'm annoyed and embarrassed. And so then I'm going to double down and be like, no, your kid got in the way of my kid's fist.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, people are, nonsense, and there's also something of who knows. I mean, you would know better than anyone, but like, if that kid is a jerk to some sweet, nerdy little dude, then he's probably a jerk to his mom too, and she's dealing with him all the time. So there's an embarrassment with that. Like,
yeah.
and by the way, I'm totally team your friend because that mom can suck it. I'm just saying, I get it.
Yeah,
like, I know where my allegiances lie, but I get it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, yeah. It's hard. You're right. Absolutely. It's people. I think it's human nature to. Well, when you feel like you're being attacked, so let's just see from that woman's point of view. Something happened. She gets called, and says, your kid, blah 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 blah. It's like she feels attacked. She gets this phone call, and it's kind of like, when you get a phone call, I mean, you don't experience this, but when your phone rings and you see the school come up on the ID, you're like, oh God, you get this,
right.
oh my God, what's happening? Is my kid okay? And it's funny because if you're a mother with a child who's a little more difficult, who has been more difficult from because children, their personalities come out really early on, and you can kind of tell as a baby, like, and as a toddler especially, if your child is your child difficult, not difficult, not in a bad way, but just,
Yeah.
really active, and a lot of energy it takes to for some children, and some kids are just happen to be easier. But behaviorally, I mean, your kid is different, like you just said, like, you have a difficult child, and we can go deeper with that, but we're not going to go deeper with that in this conversation. But like, the bottom line is that mother is going to get that phone call, and the first reaction is going to be like, oh man, what now? Like that sort of thing. And of course it's this, your kid did this and your kid did that. And of course, yeah, because I think, you get embarrassed, like, oh, because it's a reflection of her. It comes back to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I just don't, I think that, like, well, here's the thing. Parenthood is probably it is the most challenging. It is so hard, just, I think, at second to marriage, I think, parenting
Also something I'm studiously avoiding.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude, those
okay.
things look terrible. Like there's, there's something about like hearing my friend. It's another thing I find ironic because I'm pretty sure, and it makes sense. I think you should live your life in a way that you feel bad for other people for living it differently. Does that make sense? Like, because I'm always like, oh damn, you don't have to be married or have kids, right? Because both those things look terrible. Whereas I hope that my friends who are married and have kids look at me and they're like, you know that you can get married and have kids, right? Because it looks so bad where you are. I think, you know what I mean? I think like living your best life is looking at, hopefully not voicing that, but like, you know that you're on the right track if you're like, oh, they'd be so much happier like me, because that means
Yeah,
you're in a good place. Does that make sense? And like
totally.
for me, I think that all the time. I'm like, oh, yeah, your marriage sounds super fun. How cool that you guys are having this like grumpy thing where you haven't really talked for 2 weeks about anything but your kids. That sounds really fun. Like, I do not get it.
You are so, listen, dude, you are so right. Like, I mean, yeah, it's really hard. I mean, marriage and parenting is like, who invented this shit? I mean, really, like, I mean, who don't get me
Well,
wrong.
the irony too, as you know, my parents who are awesome are like still together and have been married like almost 50 years and are the best parents in the world. Like I the older I get and the more I see either my friends struggle and how much they go through as parents, or more often the more I talk to friends about like what they are still battling through as adults because of issues that their parents planted in them, like by bad parenting. Like I'm always like, oh my God, I had it so good. Like my parents are legit good parents and they're a very loving couple. And it's ironic to me that I'm like, oh, you guys knocked it out of the park on both fronts. Do not take it personally that I am not replicating that, because I remember telling them years ago when I sort of knew that I wasn't going to have kids, I wanted them to know, because parents are always wanting to make sure you're happy, right? And it was more a case of me, I didn't want them to think I was like pining for kids and just aging without them. I wanted them to know, like, oh no, man, this is a sign that I'm winning. Like I'm getting everything I wanted. But it was a weird conversation to have because,
That's really cool that you
they
actually
will,
did that. That you said that to
oh, of
them.
course.
Did they
Well,
when they
and then
when you said that to them, did they like were they like, "Well, yeah, actually we were wondering."
I think they sort of were, but again, they're good parents, so they're chill. Like I've never gotten any guilt from them. It was the other reason that it was so easy to talk to them about it, is because I never got like, because I have other friends, and you might have this too, that went through their whole 20s of like, when are you going to settle down? Are you and Mike together yet? Why can't Mike put a ring on it? How are we going to get grandbabies? Like my parents were never like that. And they're also very used to me being a really independent person, so it
Yeah.
never surprises them when I sort of find my own drummer, as it were. But like, my brother is also not planning to have kids. He got married 2 years ago, and I remember being like, wait, like he hadn't told them that. And I'm like, wait, why do I got to tell them that? Like it came up at their wedding. Like wait, I told them about me. You tell them about you, you jerk.
Oh my god. Oh wow, I didn't know that. So you've got a big family. How many siblings do you have again?
Well, what's funny is so I have an older sister and a younger brother, but as you may remember, so my brother and I don't have kids. I mean, not together, obviously, and not separately either. But my older sister provided the grandchildren. She has a boy and a girl, and they're awesome. They're teenagers now.
Oh,
But
cool.
my sister, my parents had in college and gave up for adoption. And she was raised by another family and found us in her 20s. So like we are like full family now. We vacation together. My parents went to her wedding, their grandparents to her kids, and like we're just full on.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's also very funny to me that their only kid that had kids is the one they didn't raise.
That is funny. That's so cool that she found you guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When did you find out that, when did your parents tell you that they gave them? Yeah.
They didn't tell anyway. I mean, it's a whole other story. It's an awesome story. But it's also because she's my full sister. Like they broke up too because they didn't want to. They were in college. She found us, and also none of us knew that she existed. Like my mom was sent away by. I've totally derailed from your subject, but whatever. My mom was sent into Lutheran Family Services, and she, in family tradition, she nannied for this family while pregnant, and everybody thought she was doing an internship somewhere. Like she had a PO box in St. Paul when she was in Omaha, and so people would write her and be like, "Hope your internship's going great." And she was like, joke's on you, I'm pregnant in Omaha. But yeah, so no one knew about her except for like her parents, my dad, and like one of my mom's cousins, and that was it. She left for a semester, she came back, no one knew. It was like total 60s.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so then my sister found us. Yeah, so when she found us is when my parents told everybody about her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess that fits your theme. It's about people having kids.
Yeah, totally. It's okay. Yeah, but I was going in one direction, and I totally did like a detour. So it's just really fascinating, just talking about families,
Yeah.
And I think that just going back to what you said about your parents being, legit, really good parents, and they're still married. It's just, and they're still loving.
Oh yeah.
It's, I mean, that is an accomplishment, right now to meet, a couple raising a family. Right? Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment. And it's almost, I think we all get that sense of, when we meet a couple that have been married for like 50 years and they've raised a family, and you kind of look at them and you're like, whoa, right? I get this reaction like, oh, that's such an accomplishment, or being together for 50 years.
Yeah, I think there's something to learn from that. Like that's one of the things as a parent you're doing for the rest of your life, which is leading by example. And I like to think I lead a life by example as well of my own, for whomever's watching. You have just a more specific audience on you. But like my parents, I take away things from their relationship, regardless of if it's towards the person I'm dating, if it's towards my friends, if it's towards, that in like they're best friends and they love hanging out together and they have a very happy life exploring and active and doing things. And they also have rich lives without each other. They have their own friends. They do their own thing. They're comfortable in their own skin and like by themselves. And I think those are all things I take to heart.
Yeah.
Regardless of, being in a 50-year marriage or, the proud order of cats. Like you can, there's something to learn for that.
Yeah. So did you know that you wanted to do what you wanted to do from early on, like in terms of your career? And does that apply to your, desire or choice not to have children? Do you know what I mean?
It does and it doesn't. It does in the sense that, so I work in film and at film festivals and in entertainment in general.
Yeah, I always like, sorry, I totally interrupted you. Like I always when I talk about you, like I talk about you, like you're my sister's best friend, and I do.
the family.
And because
I'm
like
a Shizawa.
because now
I'm
like if
just the blondest. I'm the
now
blondest Shizawa.
yeah, you are totally. Now, I mean, listen, Drea, I totally see you as a part of the family. I really do.
Yeah, good.
Um,
We have to.
so now that I live in the UK, because this would totally not apply if I was living in New York. Now that I live in the UK, my sister's best friend who lives in LA and works in film, like that is so exotic and so cool. Like I'm totally using you to sound like, this cool, sophisticated American because we're not really regarded that sophisticated over here in these parts.
We shouldn't be. We're
No, I
garbage
mean,
people.
yeah, it's a completely different conversation, but yeah, like people in the UK, like every time, then when they meet me, they're like, "Oh, are you Canadian?" Like they don't ever bring up
I
American
know.
because I really think that they think Americans are just idiots.
Well, as you know, I went to university in England for a year
Oh, right.
and was like one of 3 Americans on my entire campus. It was great.
Oh man. Although
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, but we love your accent." I get
Okay.
both. I get
I
both.
get
Some of
both.
them are like, "No, it's all right." But including my husband, Julian doesn't not.
Okay.
He
He
doesn't.
doesn't count. He's a curmudgeon.
But anyway, like, yeah, I talk about you. I can't remember where I was going with this, but yeah, no. So I always tell people, yeah, my sister's best friend, she works in LA in film. And then I get lost. I'm like, I don't even know exactly what she does.
That's because I do a lot of stuff. So
Okay.
I've produced several feature films. I've produced a ton of music videos, web series. I produced a TV pilot for FX. But I also, my other main job is I'm a film programmer, which is I curate films that premiere at film festivals. So I watch
Um,
hundreds of movies a year and try and identify, and like films that no one's seen, because we're looking for films um, that we're breaking new talent, and we're hopefully finding a film that will maybe sell and have start to build a career for someone. So I'm watching things, and it's about having gut level reactions. Like I watch something in a vacuum that no one else has seen, and I have to decide if it's good, if it has promise, if
mm,
there's talent there that should be promoted. And it's very fun and exciting.
yeah.
So a lot of my year is spent watching films, but then doing different film festivals and moderating Q&As and meeting a shit ton of filmmakers. So yeah, so film, yeah, film is sort of the world I live in, but I do different things within that world. So
Okay. Yeah. And it's living. Do you really like LA? I mean, obviously, you must like LA.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I moved here because I moved here from I grew up in Minnesota, and then I went to school in Wisconsin and then England, and then moved here. And I'd never been here before, and I loved it. It's beautiful, and it's sunny, and it's fun, and like everyone that I know are people that moved here because they're creative and ambitious. Like it's who doesn't want to be around that? It's all people that like every night of the week, we'll go out to movies, we'll go to a reading, we'll go to, downtown to Art Walk, we'll go to 12 new restaurants. Like it's all people who are like interested in the same stuff as me, which I
Mm-hmm.
love. And a ton of them are from the Midwest or the South, or, it's people who've moved here from similar backgrounds, but we were all drawn here. Even if we're interested in different parts of the entertainment industry, we were interested in entertainment. So
Mm-hmm.
people with a lot of you automatically kind of have something in common if you moved here and someone else did as well, because you
Yeah.
probably moved here for similar reasons.
Yeah. And you've been wanting to do that kind of work for, I mean, since before college, or?
Well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I was kind of doing it. and I'm still doing different things all the time. Like I produce a gaming festival. Who knew that I'd want to have anything to do with gaming?
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I'm getting more into
Gaming, like video games?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and like independently made video games. I do the Indiecade Festival, which is a huge international
Wow. Oh my
gaming.
God. My son would freaking love that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
totally into video games right now. Or
yeah,
like
and video
watching them
game.
on YouTube.
Yeah, and indie video game design is a fascinating new world that I would have never been like, oh yeah, I'm not a gamer. I didn't really know that stuff, but there's new things all the time. Is the other
Mm.
reason I love being here. There's different facets of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean I studied I knew I wasn't going to stay in Minnesota. I my basically my parents didn't know where I would end up. My mom always says that she knew I would be in LA or New York, and I was like, yeah, but New York has snow and I'm from Minnesota, so fuck the snow. I see you snow. So yeah, I ended up here and I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. And you have a car and like the whole LA thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course I have a car. Who
I
doesn't have a car?
I mean,
I
listen,
know.
I'm a New Yorker. Totally a New York girl.
Right, right.
And they say like there's a whole big thing like New Yorkers, LA, people in LA, people who love LA don't like New York and vice versa.
Oh no, everyone loves. See that I find that funny because I love New York.
Yeah.
The things
I
that
don't know
I
LA.
really,
I don't know LA enough to
yeah,
yeah. I've heard, you know, stories and gossip and I just kind of from that I
right.
made the decision.
Well, there's these long running things, right? That like New York and LA have a rivalry, and LA and San Francisco have a rivalry.
Oh right, yeah.
But what I've discovered with both of those is like LA is like, yeah, San Francisco's great, New York's great, whereas San Francisco's like, LA is the worst. I'm like, we don't need to think anything's the worst. You like it all. Like, what's your problem?
Yeah, it's like there's this culture of New Yorkers that like diehard New Yorkers that are either uh native New Yorkers or just coming from wherever and they've been living there in most of their adult life. And there's this thing about just not liking LA because of this, that, and the other, the people there are weird and they're just so superficial
We're all
and
people who've like
flaky.
never been here. Yeah. I was like, you can find judgmental assholes or weirdo hippies
Yeah.
anywhere. Like you can go to White Bear Lake and find all those people. Like, I don't know.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
hell yeah.
my thing is I can't imagine caring about another city. Like, who cares what New York's like? I don't live there.
I know, totally, totally. All right, so like, yeah, it's really interesting about the whole knowing that you didn't want to have children, and yet people around you, close friends, thought that you would go that route and become a mother, and that's a common theme that I've been in this conversation with several women that every woman that I've spoken to was and is uh very, very loving and mothering. Do you know what I mean? Like there's an element of being
Yeah.
a woman where I have yet to meet a woman who doesn't like children. Have you? Have you met
Well, but
you know
here's
that whole
the
saying
difference
like, oh, I don't like children. I mean, I would love my children, but I don't like other children.
But I will say there is a difference though, because even in like how you'll talk in Facebook about like even Mika's kids who are, top of the list for me, I only like 12 children on the planet and you happen to own 3 of them. You know what I mean? So like I like kids and I grew up enjoying kids, but I don't want to be around them ever. Like I know that sounds kind of terrible, but not really. Like I rent a cabin every summer with some of my best friends from college, which is this big co-ed group. And we have a no kids rule. Like unless you're nursing a baby, your kids are not allowed. A
Mm-hmm.
part of that is for me, I'm like, I only see you guys for, 36 hours a year. I really don't care about your children other than are they happy and healthy and are you feeling good about your life? because I want to have like good conversations with my friends about parenting and about that. But like, I have no desire to hang out with their kids. I don't need to. Those kids don't care about me. They don't need to care about me.
Right.
And likewise, like, I remember once you wrote something on Mika's wall about, or no, in your blog, you wrote something beautiful. And I always like how you write. It's always so sort of stream of conscious and really lyrical. And it
Thank
was
you.
about loving babies and how much you loved holding them, and how holding a baby again makes you miss having a baby.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. Like, I remember meeting June, Mika's oldest, but he was already sort of a year and a half at June's wedding.
Yeah.
But and like, oh, he was funny, and I liked when he was like alert and would play like, not peekaboo, but you know what I mean, like funny face games with me.
Yeah.
But I had no like, oh, let me hold him while he sleeps. Like, I don't. No, I'm like, no, put the kid down so I can talk to you. Do you know what I
Okay,
mean?
so it was like, just to not confuse people. So my younger brother's name is June,
Right.
and my sister's firstborn, she named him June. So there's two Junes in our family. So yeah. So
Of course.
but that's so cool that you mentioned that, because I I don't know. I think I have this very, very strong love for babies. I think it's beyond. I think it's a.
Yeah.
I don't know if other women have this. Like, it's a similar. I think I'm like weird when it comes to
No,
loving.
it's your superpower.
Well, I don't know. I mean, and I think my mother, maybe it comes from my mother, because I know she loves
Yeah.
holding babies, and she's so good with babies too. And I think so there's like this, I view it like there's this level of loving babies, right? And then you just love babies and they're cute and whatever. But like, man, you have like a limit. I have like this, I go into this quantum level of like loving. I don't even know what the hell that means, but it just sounds good. Um, like this
Right.
level beyond that. Like, I love babies so much, to the point where it, 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 I actually have this amazing ability to calm them, because when I hold them, um the amount of love that they feel, or I don't know, like, I always try to figure this out, like, why is it that and my sister's like, yeah, she's got like this freaky kind of baby whisperer thing, which is why I love doing what I do, and why I'm good at it. So, but like, there's this element of, I think I'm beyond the the norm of loving babies. I just love holding babies. I just think they're magical, and I hold this like amazing.
That that is, and I totally agree. And if I was smaller, I would want you to hold me because I believe that. And and I mean, you can hold me regardless. I'll just cuddle up on you the next time I see you.
Yeah.
That phrase you just said reminded me of something that I don't know if you remember Steve Marsh, one of my
Oh
best
yeah,
friends.
totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That we had this conversation for sure back in college where where basically we were like, yeah, there's two kinds of people when it comes to kids. Is you're like, you either think children are magical and amazing, or you do not. And I was like, I do not. Like, I think kids are great and hilarious and can offer like poignant remarks that you wouldn't hear anywhere else, and I love all of that. But I love it in the same way that I like people in general. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't like automatically like kids more than I like people in general. And as much as I like people in general, I like to, choose which people I'm going to be around and who to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so, whereas there's other people who see kids and they react like you do when you see a puppy at the park and you're like, oh my God, like, look at her, look at that little baby, or your toddler, she just started to walk, oh my God. Like, and so yeah, I think that it's a deeply wired reaction. And I do think it's nice. I think women have been allowed, there's more leniency for us to either have the overjoyed reaction or increasingly more like me, be like, oh yeah, your kid's great. I'm going to be over here when you can talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel for men, because I don't think that they've always been afforded both options. I think, that's one of my things of supporting feminism in general is I think for parenting that there are plenty of men who would love to or would be really good at unleashing more of a nurturing side, but aren't necessarily allowed to because of gender norms and expectations. And I think that there's a ton of great fathers, and like my dad's one of them, but he's also in the sort of especially the Western American father of quieter and more reserved and less forthcoming with affection, and that's part of it now. And now we joke about it, and I make him hug me, and but there's something about who is allowed to give affection or like comfort in that way. And I think we're lucky because you've always been gifted with it and able to do it. And I've been, I'm comfortable. Kids like me, and I'm good with that, and I'm able to draw these lines. But it is an interesting side thing of dads. I find dads fascinating because in the same way that it's assumed that women want to be mothers, I do feel like it's an ongoing joke that like men are always tricked into parenthood almost, or they're less involved or less committed or passionate about it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I don't believe that's true. But I think in terms of how it's generally portrayed culturally or how sort of they're expected to react to things, I think once kids are born, there's that thing where like daddy's girl, or they melt over the babies or whatever. But there's still a funny thing about like boys aren't babysitters as much. Girls are babysitters. I don't think that's because we were actually that's a lie. I think girls are a lot more together than boys. 12-year-old boys are idiots, whereas like as 12 I was totally comfortable running somebody else's house.
Oh yeah. Like Sophia, she's not even 12, and
right.
She's cooking for Julian. Like,
exactly.
She's running the show when I'm not home, and they're home. She's running the show.
Yeah. There's my gender bias showing. Yeah. But it's true. But I do think there's plenty of boys that would be good and interested in that kind of thing, but those roles are still in play. So hopefully that will keep shifting as well.
Yeah. That's interesting because I actually have been thinking about, inside this conversation and talking to women about about parenthood and motherhood. I have been actually thinking that it would be really interesting to talk to men, because I don't, I think actually I have to say, I really don't know. I don't know what I'm going to hear. I've never really talked to a man about this particular subject where asking the same questions. Like, when did you know you wanted to be a dad? When did you know you wanted to be a dad? And I actually have no idea what's going to come up out of that.
I would recommend doing that. And I would also recommend, because I've only listened to one other of these that you've done, and I quite enjoyed it. But
which one did you listen to?
Well, funny enough, I listened to that one that you recommended about where you pimped out Ken.
That's the one that so you heard that part, right?
Yeah. Oh, I totally did. And you were not wrong. He's a totally worthy candidate. But I think there's something interesting too about generationally who is making choices of things. Like when like in talking to my parents, especially since we had that whole unique twist in their lives of having my sister unexpectedly in college and going through this really traumatic thing with her adoption. And then, in part of that, like they were two teenagers from Nebraska who didn't want to get married for a baby because a lot of people in small towns in Nebraska did that.
Yeah.
But then also I remember asking them, because they didn't have me for 5 years or something after they got married. And I asked them, well, when you got married, why'd you wait, or did you know? And they weren't sure they were going to have kids. And it was interesting for me to hear that of, oh yeah, because again, you assume everyone is just sort of there's a lot of assumptions with parenthood. And I think there'd be something nice in terms of talking to people at different ages of that. I bet there's also men and women who, like you, like were like, no, I always wanted to be a dad. I knew that. I've always wanted that.
Yeah.
And I think a cool perspective as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's also like, for example, Julian, my husband, he said that he always knew he wanted to be a dad. And actually he said that like, even he remembers being like 28, 29, thinking if I met the right girl. I mean, I don't really believe this because I don't think he's aware enough to know this about him. But like, when he tells me this, I'm just like, whatever. It's such a load of crap. But
he's trying to schmooze you.
He says that he remembers being like 28 and thinking I could totally like settle down and have a family now. So yeah, he's an example where he always knew he wanted to have children. And when we met, he wanted to have children like right then and there. It was just, like he wanted to like, oh my gosh, the guy wanted children like now with me. And he told me that. Yeah. And that's a big part of what attracted me to him, that certainty of being a father. But we won't get into that. But there's men like that. I know I've met men like that, who think about parenthood, fatherhood, and they know that that's going to be in their lives. But it's also, for me, it's interesting to hear it from their point of view as a man, because I believe that men process the way their lives develop differently than women, only because on an instinctive biologic level, they're programmed, they're able to procreate for up until from like the time to the time they go through puberty to the time they die. Yeah, so on an instinctive programmed, it's programmed in their DNA to not have the same type of thoughts or emotions or a relationship to themselves as a future parent. So I think that like they know that it can happen, and they want it to happen at some point. And I mean, I don't know. I'd have to really like just hear what they say, and I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
What time is it over there? So you're going to Australia soon. What's that all about?
It is midnight for me right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I am headed to Australia tomorrow.
Wow.
And I can't wait.
What for?
For Saucy's wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, I know this person. Don't I know this person?
Yeah, dude, Sarah Brown.
Oh my God. She lives in Australia?
She's Australian.
All right. That simplifies it.
You said it like that. What?
Okay. So
yes. She lives in Melbourne.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're going you're doing all this traveling to go to these weddings.
I know. I've gone to like 3 weddings this year.
Far away from where you are. It's like, why can't they be close to you?
Well, I went to one in Texas last month. And then, God, where was the one right before that? New York? Yeah, man. The wedding circuit is keeping my frequent flyer miles cranking.
Yep. And it's so when you go to these, it was so cool. So this is like a year and a half ago now that I saw you, and I hadn't seen you for like,
I know,
so long, and it was so cool to hang out with you. I mean, so cool. And it was done in like, you were there for a week, right?
In 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was done in like 2 seconds. And, great pictures to show it and prove it. But like, it was so cool to hang out and be with you. And it just makes me want, and talking to you now makes me want to like go
Well,
get on a plane and visit you.
yeah. You know that I have this dream, Marianne, because you and my sister are closer in age. She's older than you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you've said this to me.
But like you guys, you will, first off, you would love her like to the dumbest degree. You would be like, get rid of Drea. Let's just replace her with Bevan. You would love her so much. But you guys would get along so great. You have so much in common. She's done triathlon. She's like super athletic. She's a hilarious drinker.
Oh my God.
She's the best. She's so funny. You guys would get along so well.
Yeah.
But I have these dreams of somehow you, me, Mika, and Bevan having like a stolen weekend somewhere in like New York or something. Like
Hell yeah.
Just like a little baby, like 2 nights of just the 4 of us.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would ever happen, but I would love it so much.
Well, 2 nights is, for one thing, that's definitely too short. And
I'm thinking of like being able to actually like capture you guys for myself without everyone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if everyone was doing like a family trip to the States and then you guys just disappeared for 2 nights, that I could maybe swing.
Yeah, that would totally be doable. That would be doable. But
right?
even so, like, I mean, yeah, okay, I could do that now because my kids I could do that now because my kids are older.
Mika just needs to get off the teeth.
Yeah. Mika needs a little more time.
She's gotta like get that baby all plumped up, and then she's gotta wean that little bastard.
She's got 2 boys. Oh my God.
I know, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. But like, man, because I think that like for mothers, with me in terms, I'm thinking about Mika, taking that time away. It's gonna be a while. I'll just like warn you because
I know.
taking a mother away from
Yeah, I knew when she was having, and that's actually a good point of how I look at motherhood. It's like, oh, you're pregnant again. That totally screws up my like travel.
Yeah. And I had that that was going on for me for what was it, like it's like 8 years for me where I was hunkering down.
Yeah. You know our other best friend Miranda. You've met Miranda.
Yeah.
So Miranda has this unique thing. So my goddaughter is her oldest.
Yeah.
Who just turned 15, which is bonkers.
She's what?
She turned 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember visiting them in the hospital when she was born.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was 15 years ago. So she has a 15-year-old and she has like a 4-year-old boy who's about to be 5 or just turned 5. Basically, her kids are 10 years apart, and which is already crazy. But he was like this amazing, like they tried for so long, and I was so happy. Like it was this amazing little miracle, and they love it. Yeah. But I remember visiting her when he was 2-ish, and I was going to go meet Terry, our other friend.
Mm-hmm.
Terry was driving down from the cities, and Miranda and Scott live like a couple hours south. And so I was going to go an hour up. Terry was going to go an hour down. We're going to meet for dinner. It was going to be great. And so I was, I had just flown in from LA, and I'm scurrying about Miranda's house, and she's cooking, and like I'm getting ready to, and so I'm getting ready to leave, and I can't remember. I think Scott had to work, and her daughter was like up doing, or she was at a friend's or whatever. Basically, when I was about to leave the house, Miranda was like cooking and trying to feed Murdoch, her son, and like and all of this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I felt so guilty. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm leaving you. I wish you could come with. I feel terrible. And she was like laughing at me. She's like, what are you no, I want to be here. Like, I'm like with my baby. Like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I had all this guilt because I was assuming she just wanted to get rid of this kid and like be able to come with me and go to dinner with our friend. And she was on the other side and was like, why would I want to run around and leave and go drive somewhere to have dinner? Do you know what I mean? Like, and that I think is the perfect encapsulation of what I think the luckiest way to approach parenting, which is kind of parroting what I said earlier of like, that both of us in that moment were so sure that we had it so much better than the other person. Yeah. And I think that's like a good way to lead your life, not in a way of like arrogantly or smugly, but just like, oh, I know I'm feeling good about the choices I'm making for myself. If I think that if I look at other people and like, oh no, you must be miserable. If that makes sense, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. And at the same time, it's not black and white for me because sometimes I look at like your life and I'm like, let me just hang out with you for a month. Let me just live for a month.
You can hang out for me in January. We're going to go to Sundance and then we're going to go to the Golden Globes. Actually, the Globes are
Sweet.
I already have my dress.
One of these years in January, I'm going to hang out with you for the whole damn month.
For you to get away to California.
Because I have this like thing where like in another life, I was like some like major Hollywood actress and I was on the red carpet and like I did that.
Yeah, like I said, you're my best friend's beautiful, stylish sister. Obviously, I always envisioned that for you too.
Oh, Drea, thank you. Well, I love you, and this has been so fun. Thank you so much for doing this at like midnight for you.
You bet. Thank you for having me. I loved it too.
I love that story about Miranda at the end. It kind of wraps up the whole conversation, doesn't it? Well, an interesting thing came out of my conversation with Drea. I made the decision and I took action towards doing a series of episodes talking to men about fatherhood. I've already got a whole pipeline of men of all kinds, single, married, dads, non-dads, who are ready to talk to me about the subject of fatherhood. I happen to love men, and the older I get, the more I want to know more. So I'm wrapping up this series of talking to women who are not mothers, and I'll start releasing the episodes with men starting in mid-January, with my husband being the first episode. So it's going to be really great because up till now, I think most of my audience has been women, mainly mothers, and now both men and women will be able to get some entertainment from this. So I hope you continue to listen, and I'm sure it'll be illuminating content talking to these men. If you want to get in touch with Drea Clark or find out more about her, go to her website, Drea, D-R-E-A, Clark, C-L-A-R-K.com, DreaClark.com, or you can find her on Twitter at the Drea Clark. You can also check out my website, yourdoinggreatmom.com. That's Y-O-U-R-E, doinggreatmom.com. And please be sure to subscribe and write a review. I would be so happy if you all do that. Thanks, and see you next week.